Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Arthur's Roundtable. Super grateful to everybody who's listening and those in the Family Office Insights community that have come over and had an opportunity to listen to the podcast as well. And those that have shared it, super appreciate it. And we have a really interesting guest today. You're going to find it interesting because a lot of you have children that have entrepreneur tendencies. So thank you, Leah, for doing this today.
I'm so excited to be here. And I think the secret is all children have entrepreneurial tendencies. It's just a matter of how we encourage it.
Yeah, I love that. I've been trying to encourage that with I have three children and two of them are entrepreneurs. Actually, all three were entrepreneurs at some point, only two now, but that's yeah, we like encouraging that sort of engagement and behavior. So let's start, Leah, with your origin story, how this all began, and then move on to where you are today.
Kind of a roller coaster of a story because it goes clear back to 2019. I owned an in home child care center, which means I took care of little kids in my house. We ran a daycare. It was tons of fun. And I had the best time. We coincidentally ended up having all girls, and I also had purchased the We Engineering curriculum for University of Boston Science, which meant I was teaching engineering curriculum to 3-year-old girls,
Nice.
and it was amazing. But then I went to turn on my microwave, and my microwave and my stove turned off. And having the electrician and the contractors come out, we were able to locate 10 years worth of black mold inside the walls of the house I had owned for 18 months.
Wow.
Yeah, that was not a fun experience. That meant I had to shut down the daycare temporarily so that we could move into long-term hotel, have our house rebuilt. We moved out of our house in August of 2019. We finally moved back into our house January 31st of 2020. My husband then
Just in time
deployed.
for COVID.
Right. So my husband then deployed February of 2020, leaving me at home with an 18-month-old and a 4-year-old and a plan to reopen our daycare. So I finished unpacking, got some stuff cleaned, had our grand reopening scheduled for March 7th, 2020. We lived in northern Los Angeles County, which means it was the exact day that they shut down our county. Nobody showed up to my grand reopening. And
Right.
we were in a little bit of a lurch. So by April, it was pretty clear that we weren't going to be opening anytime soon. And my husband and I decided to start a financial coaching company together because it had been something we were interested in anyway. So while he's on one side of the world in a need to know and I didn't need to know kind of location, I'm at home in Southern California and we're doing training videos and planning things through phone calls and video chats and Google documents and planning a business together. But I was watching business training videos because while I had always been entrepreneurial, going from kind of hobby entrepreneur and daycare into like a legitimate professional consulting business, I wanted a little bit more education. So I was watching business training videos on the living room TV so that I could supervise my kids while I was doing these training videos. And by mid May, my 4.5-year-old came up to me and said, Mommy, I want to start a business too.
Nice. They were paying attention.
I said, no way, you're 4.
Yeah.
And because she was 4, she had been pre-programmed with every 4-year-old's favorite word, why?
Why?
And I didn't have a good answer. I had nothing. I was like, this is unprecedented times if there ever was. So why not do something unprecedented? So we set up a Facebook page. She did polls to decide on what to name her business. She took orders via a Google form and she launched her first business, Melody Paints, at 4.5.
Nice.
She's now 10. She's rebranded to Melody Creates, launched a lemonade partnership with her younger sister, and she's currently drafting the business plans for her third business. She's also junior executive director for the nonprofit that I founded because of her. And that
June.
would be, yes.
You don't hear that very often. Very
No,
cool.
we're a unique little organization.
Yeah.
So here at the Society of Child Entrepreneurs, just like the name says, we teach entrepreneurship to kids, but we also teach them financial literacy, leadership, social emotional learning skills, problem solving, creativity, all the things that an entrepreneur has to have. And that includes, we have a junior board of directors. So we have a board of 10 to 14-year-olds who have once a month meetings and go over what their non negotiables are, what the budget looks like, what event planning looks like, and how to keep our organization running forward while it's doing everything it should to keep the members happy and everything it needs to do to ensure that the adult board can do our job.
That's wild. So again, you don't hear that very often. And so when you say members, define that for us.
So here in Goddard, and right now it's just here in South Central Kansas that we have our in-person organization. But here in Goddard, we have a program. You pay a monthly or annual membership fee, and those kids have a once a month coaching mastermind with me. We do pizza parties. They participate in our local children's business fairs. So that's our like really local membership. But because we realized there were people around the world who also wanted to be engaged in what we were doing. We also created an online community called the Sochi Circle. And at the Sochi Circle, people from anywhere in the world can join and they can get lesson plans. They get a weekly family challenge, and all of that stuff is right there.
Very cool. And so in the terms of scale, what are you looking at membership wise? You don't have to disclose anything you don't want to disclose, but just get an idea of where you are in scaling this.
So we're planning our second birthday party for July. So we're still only about a year and a half old. And so the goal with our program is to be nationwide within 10 years, be that nationwide or worldwide. It kind of depends because I've had some people in Canada and Sweden and even Africa who have wanted to know how they can license our programs. And so we could potentially in 10 years be worldwide. But we also have a 36-week curriculum that school districts can buy and just teach. And so that's the easiest thing was like, go join the Sochi Circle or find a school or homeschool co-op and buy the curriculum and teach it yourself. But eventually we'll have chapters around the nation where they can have these monthly meetings, where they can have the children's business fairs, where they can replicate everything we're doing here in Goddard anywhere they want to do it.
So it's pretty commonly accepted that financial literacy in particular and entrepreneurship for sure is not something that is in the public school system. Are you finding the people that are showing interest in what you're doing largely homeschooled in the public system, a cross section of all of it?
So we do have, I think our local membership is about 60-40 public school students to homeschool students. So we're pretty fairly matched, homeschool or private or public school students. And then I also teach a pilot of our full curriculum at a homeschool co-op center. So then I'm teaching additional homeschool students there. But our curriculum, it's one of those things that really it can match to fit wherever you are. So we've done pilots in private schools, we've done it in homeschool co-ops, we've done it in city rec centers. Pretty much if you can get me a bunch of kids in a space for a classroom, I can teach them how to run a business.
And is it what we believe to be true? Is it wholly absent, for example, financial literacy in public school system?
Yes and no. Good quality financial literacy programs in school are pretty absent. However, more and more states are starting to create some type of financial literacy requirements, but usually not until high school. And anybody who studied childhood development or psychology understands that most of your subconscious beliefs are formed by the time you're 7.
Yeah.
So by this point, we're entirely too late. So there are like Jumpstart Financial Literacy is a great financial literacy standard, but like I said, most schools don't start it until high school. And by that point, they've already built so many negative habits and been exposed to so many negative habits that it's really hard to re-educate them. So we start our program at 6 years old. And so we're able to take them as soon as they're starting to earn money, as soon as they're starting to build a relationship with money and really start it on the right foot from the get-go.
So I know you've thought about this, but one of the problems in financial literacy seemingly is that the parents don't know what they're doing. And so they don't distill that, whatever it is, the discipline into the children. Is that also a segment that you might be interested in addressing?
So, like I mentioned before, my husband and I, when we first started entrepreneurship together, we were financial coaches. And so I literally taught grown-ups how to write a budget. And when I was teaching grown-ups time and time and time again, every grown-up said, why did nobody teach me this when I was a kid? Why didn't anybody teach me this when I was a kid? Nobody told me this when it could have been helpful when I was a child. And because I had just come out of daycare, I was like, well, I can do that. So I wrote my first curriculum that I ever wrote was an 8-week financial literacy program for 13 to 16-year-olds that went over how to open a bank account, how to buy a car, how to apply for scholarships, how to invest for retirement, all of that right there when they were teenagers and they were just starting to toy with the idea of getting their first jobs. So that they really were starting on the ground floor. But now I've taken all of that and deduced it down even more simple so that I can teach it to 6-year-olds. Because really, no matter how old you are, there's only 3 things you can do with money. After you have earned it, your only 3 options are spending it, saving it, and giving it away. And we give it all kinds of different names, but they all deduce back to those 3 things. And so if we can teach them at 6 to always make sure they're doing those 3 things, then as they get older and we introduce new names for those 3 things, they already understand the concept.
So you'll appreciate this. One of my friends and also a guest in the podcast recently, Carol Pepper, spent, I think, about 15 years working for the Rockefeller family at their family office, which at this point is hundreds of beneficiaries. It's not John D., right? But John D. Rockefeller, one of the methods he used, and obviously he had wealth beyond, right? But instilling in his children, he said, here's the deal. Those 3 things that you mentioned, you can save it, spend it, or give it away. The amount of money that they spent, John D. Rockefeller wouldn't match, but the amount of money that he saved or gave away, he would match dollar for dollar.
Well,
So
that's
he
awesome.
so he instilled that sort of methodology into the children right from the very beginning. And of course, there's somebody whose offspring will end up with lots of money, but taught it from the beginning while it was still, children can learn, like you say, before 6, 7.
So this is what I did for my daughter. So I gave this to my 4-year-old. I think either when she was 4 or 5, this was her Christmas present one year. So it's a little unicorn. It's like an A10 binder. And when you open it up, it has these little envelopes. And so she has save
Save,
for short term,
right?
give for others, spending for today, and then saving for long term. And whenever she got money, if it was a birthday present, she didn't have to include giving, but she did still have to include saving. But any other time she earned money, she had to sit down with me and put cash in all 4 envelopes.
Nice.
And now she's 10 and she's outgrown unicorns and gone into a regular wallet, but she still knows to sort her money into these 4 categories because we literally did it every time she earned $1.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
So tell us a little bit more about what happens when someone gets involved.
So I think the most fun part of it is I get to sit down with the kiddos and I ask them, what do you love doing? What are you good at? What brings you joy? All of those things, and then help them figure out how that can become a business. And what's really funny to me is I have kids sit down and I tell them what they come to me 2 different ways. So some kids come to me, they already have a business idea and they just want me to help them kind of finesse it and give them the opportunities to sell it since I host 4 children's business fairs a year. Other kids come to me because their parents want them to try something new. So they enroll them in this entrepreneurship program. And the kids look at me and they're like, we're children. We cannot be entrepreneurs. This is ridiculous. So one of my favorite students sits down. The first thing she tells me is, I'm 14 and I want to be a paramedic. There is nothing entrepreneurial I can do right now. And so the first thing I said is, have you ever looked at a first aid kit? Like, first aid kits do not make sense for kids who are doing first aid. I mean, there is so much stuff in a first aid kit that a 14-year-old doesn't need it to have. What if you made a first aid kit for kids, like for little kids or for teenagers that has only the stuff you guys need? And she was like, actually, first aid kits are always clear. And I'm a 14-year-old girl. The last thing I want is a clear bag. I need my privacy for my belongings. And I was like, okay, so what if you made a first aid for kids that wasn't clear? And she was like, I could do that. And so literally within the span of an hour, she went from child entrepreneurs is a stupid concept to, hey, wait a second. I could actually sell that thing and solve that problem. Now she's in our 18-week program, and she has changed her mind to an entirely different business that is very high tech and super cool. But it all started with me opening her mind to the fact that it was even possible. And so those are my favorite, is to be able to challenge the kids that they're wrong about themselves.
That's very cool. Isn't life just a series of adjustments, right?
Yeah. Just wait a minute. What about
Yeah.
if I try? Have you ever thought of? That's my favorite thing to ask kids is how does that work?
Yeah. And so what would help, you have a community here that is, largely entrepreneurs or second or third generation from some sort of operating business. What is it that would be helpful for your business at this point?
Oh, we're a nonprofit. So anytime you want to sponsor something or donate money and get a tax write off, we will always take your money because we have tons of programs. But that means we have a lot of expenses. And the amount of photocopies we make in a year is just atrocious. So we will always take donations. But we also are always happy, especially if you can be local or you can do something on Zoom with us, to have a guest teacher come in and say, this is what I'm an expert in, and this is how it can be applied to your business and what you guys want to do. Here's something I learned the hard way in my business, and I want to give you a jump start on being prepared for now. Anytime somebody wants to come and teach the kids, they see a lot of my face, and it's better for them to see somebody else's face.
And it kind of reminds me of bring your dad or mom to work day and have them tell the story about what they do.
Oh, yeah. I love a good career day. Send me your parents, tell me what they do, and tell me how we as children can help you do it better.
Yeah. Do you remember the kid in Liar Liar? He said, "What's your father do?" "He's a liar."
Yes,
"You mean he's a lawyer?"
that was my favorite movie when I was a kid. I probably watched it a
It's a,
hundred
it's a
times.
great
My brother
quote.
and I would quote it to each other.
So have you gotten any, so there's a reason why I'm asking this question. We're involved with a company that has a platform for donor advised funds, and donor advised funds, you are aware what they are, but they struggle in finding places to deploy the money, just like foundations struggle to find places to deploy the money. It might be something for you to look into, because if people are aware that you're a nonprofit and you're looking for people that want to help kids learn financial literacy or entrepreneurship, then they do the matching for you.
Right. So we are a part of one donor advised fund organization that kind of steers people a little bit. Since we're so new, we're still at that point where we have to build a little bit more reputation. And I have amazing data for the programs that we've taught so far, but I haven't taught 500 kids yet. So people are like, well, what about how does it continue to scale? And I'm like, well, it will. It's amazing. And so that's kind of I've been our biggest struggle is just that proof of concept. And now we've gotten that social proof, we've gotten that proof of concept. And I see 2026 and 2027 just being massive years for us. Plus, I don't know if you saw it online, but we wrote a book last year. So this is Sparks to
Well,
Start.
as far as the story of Astra and Zeke.
Right. So Astra and Zeke are 10-year-old and 12-year-old business coaches. So they each had their own business and they were struggling a little bit independently from each other.
Fictitious people.
Yes, they're completely fictitious. They are our mascots. I made them up and I tell people they're my favorite children because I got to name them and I didn't have to birth them. And they always do what I say. But now we use Astra and Zeke in all of our stories, all of our lessons tie to Astra and Zeke. And they own a business coaching company called Sparks to Stars, and they teach entrepreneurship to other kids. And it's a really great way for children to see themselves as entrepreneurs because it's literally in the book. It's two kids doing it.
And is that something that's part of the curriculum, or could someone buy that on Amazon and share it?
Both. So it is part of our curriculum. Every lesson starts with an Astra and Zeke story, so the kids have something to relate it to. But Sparks to Stars is on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, bookshop.org, anywhere else that you go to buy books. My favorite place for you to buy it is bookshop.org because they provide funds to your local bookstore. So then those small indie bookstores in your community get money and you still get the convenience of buying online.
Yeah, super cool. So you talked about you have data or statistics. What type of, forget about it only being a handful. Tell us a little bit about the data.
So it's been really fantastic to see at the beginning and end of every lesson, I do what we call a confidence check. And I have the kids, I tell them, this is the concept. How confident do you feel in your ability to do this skill? And they give me a rating. And then we teach the lesson and I have them give them a new rating. And so being able to statistically show those ratings getting bigger,
Progress.
literally every hour that I spend with those kids, those numbers are getting bigger. But then also having amazing stories about the things that children have done in our classes. One of my favorite stories ever is about three girls. It was our first or second workshop we had ever done. We were brand new. We had three girls sitting in a room. They were 6, 9, and I think she's 12. She might have been 11. And they're sitting at this table, and I tell them entrepreneurs solve problems. That's the start of entrepreneurship. Identify a problem, create a solution, market your solution. So, in order to give you guys a jump start on creating a fictitious business today, I'm going to assign you a problem and I want you to fix it. So, I told them I was really tired of porch pirates and they needed to figure out what to do about the packages that were getting stolen off of people's porches. And so they tell me, this is a stupid problem. Just put a locker on your porch. And I'm like, that would be really great, except for all these delivery people are on really tight timelines and they can't figure out how to use my locker. And so they were like, well, what if the locker had extender arms? So you put your package down and then the robot reaches out, grabs it, and puts it back inside of its own belly. And I'm like, that's really cute. But now the guy following the Amazon truck is going to steal my expensive robot and my packages. I don't like this idea. And so they're like, okay, we'll make it flat on the bottom and put 2 bolts straight in the center so that it's not like massive damage to your porch or your patio, so that if you want to move, you can, but it's sturdy enough that nobody could steal it easily. So they'll probably be easily dissuaded from theft. And I was like, okay, that works fine. So you get your package delivered, it grabs it, stores it inside, and it holds it there. So what if I get home and somebody sent me a birthday present? So I don't know that I have a package delivered, or my hands are full, so I can't open it, or I lost the key. How do I get my package out of the box? And they were like, oh no, it's going to have facial recognition software. So when it sees you on your steps, it will open and hand you your package
With the same arms, right?
with the same arms that it was storing them with in the first place. So I looked at them. Again, remember, 6, 9, and 11, three little girls. And I said, guys, this is a really great idea. I don't think you guys can create something this complex. And the 11-year-old looks at me like I am literally the dumbest person she has ever seen on planet Earth. Head in the eyes, completely monotone. I'm in robotics club. I'll figure it out.
All right. I love it. Yeah.
Right. So those are the stories that I get to be a part of every
Amazing.
day. Literally these kids coming up with these ideas and the confidence to go make it happen.
Yeah. That is amazing.
Yeah, they're brilliant.
Yeah. Kids surprise you all the time. I learn from mine every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sometimes I learn that I need better, taller shelves and tighter locks, but I always learn something.
Yeah. Is there another? That's a great story. Is there another one you can share?
So I have a young gentleman in our organization. He's 14 and he's a really avid reader. He really is just always happy to sit down with a good book. But he's also aware of the fact that statistically, reading for pleasure drops off exponentially after 4th grade. And so most kids his age, especially boys, aren't really very
Sports,
avid readers.
girls, et cetera, right?
Right, exactly. They just don't do a lot of reading anymore, especially not reading for pleasure outside of school hours. And he really wanted to be able to talk to his friends about books. And so he created a business called Troy's Top 10. And you can tell him one book that you liked just a little bit. And he has a bookmark that he's hand drawn. And on the back is printed 10 more books in your genre that he thinks you'll also enjoy reading, that he's read and can talk to you about. So he's instantaneously creating
Oh,
low
yeah.
barrier, low friction to get more kids in his age range to read. But he took it a step further. And he was like, telling them what books to read doesn't help if I can't get the books to them. So he created a partnership with a local like pallet book sales company. And he goes in and he buys stacks of books for $1 a piece. And then he bundles the books with his bookmarks, and you can show up at his booth and buy a couple of books, a bookmark, a list of other books to read, and spend $10.
Wow.
Oh, he is awesome.
Wow. And so that's the monetization.
Yeah, exactly. He identified a problem, he figured out a solution, and then he figured out, okay, how do I monetize this? So he sells the bookmarks for $3, but selling something for $3 is very finite. But then going and getting that partnership with the books and saying, I can sell you a book and a bookmark, and it's this recommendation list that will keep you engaged. Then it's become a business that can continue to grow.
Super interesting. Wow. Nicely done. Fascinating
He's
work.
awesome.
Yeah. So what's the next step for you aside from the chapters and going either national or global? What's it look like in the next year or so?
They think the biggest things for us is one, establishing our online community to be more robust. Right now, it has 11 pretty inactive members, and I would really like to get that closer to 100, 150 active members who are engaging in our weekly challenges. And then the second part of it is finalizing all of these pilot programs we've been doing so that we can start selling this prepackaged curriculum so that people can literally just buy the binder and teach the class.
And is the community on Facebook?
So our curriculum is actually on school. So it's a little bit nicer, straightforward, more organized, a little bit less doom scrolly. It's a nicer place to hang out. And then it has, because it's on school, discussion boards as well as courses that you can do. So, like, one of our first courses is our starter kit. And you can go in there and there's worksheets for the children to do on whether or not they feel like they are ready to be a child entrepreneur, and then workshops for the parents to do on whether or not they're ready to be the guide for their child entrepreneur. And if they understand that their role is guide, not manager and not partner.
Yeah, don't do my homework for me.
Right. I think I posted on LinkedIn yesterday or today. One of the hardest things I had to learn about my daughter's business is that sometimes I'm not her target customer.
Right.
Sometimes she sells things that I'm like, why would you sell that? And then people buy it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not your target customer. Her target customer is 10 to 14-year-old girls because she's a 10-year-old girl.
So when does I'm totally out of touch with this. What age do the kids start going online or having access to social media and that sort of thing?
Officially, the laws are 13 at the earliest. And then, of course, every family makes their own rules regarding what they do and don't want to allow their children to do. But because of laws that have been passed within my lifetime, websites aren't allowed to cater to children under 13 unless they're educational based. So, our website does have a child entrepreneur section and an adult section. And everything in the child entrepreneur section is moderated and can be viewed by any adult at any time to make sure the kids are being good and staying safe.
Yeah, there's all kinds of nasty stuff going on with what is it, Roblox or
Roblox is horrible,
yeah,
and Minecraft, and I'm like, I don't let my kids. This is crazy because I literally teach online classes, but I don't let my own daughters do very much online that I haven't scrutinized first,
yeah. Yeah, we
which
had
is how you can tell that my our online community is very heavily moderated. Because I'm like, if I wouldn't let my kid read this, I'm not letting anybody's kid read it.
yeah. I think that you're obviously passionate about this and doing well at executing this early on, but there's hope for you, and I mean that in the most affectionate way. Look at what happened to Khan Academy. I mean, it just blew up, right?
Right.
And Bank of America bought it for some ridiculous amount of money.
I'm happy to take any donations that anybody wants to send us, but we're a nonprofit, so you can't buy us.
Yeah, I get it. Well, I believe that Khan Academy was a nonprofit and then they switched because they had a monetization in the offing. But that's another story.
It's another whole thing. I would like to see, like I said, I want this to be nationwide. I want this to be something that children, regardless of their home life, have access to. So we're even working right now on a partnership with Habitat for Humanity so that if you're a family who is working with Habitat for Humanity to build a house, the kids can get a discounted access to our program and work with me once a week while the parents are doing their sweat equity hours so that we are more stabilizing that family's upward mobility.
Yeah, totally.
We all know that it's really hard to come out of poverty, out of an unhoused situation. And so once the parents have worked really hard and gotten themselves this really firm new foundation, it can be really easy for that mindset not to shift in the second generation. And then the second generation just goes right back down. So, with us working with that second generation and providing them all of this entrepreneurship and problem solving and leadership skills, we're continuing that upward mobility another generation instead of risking losing it.
Is there, I know it's a small cohort, but is there a breakdown for socioeconomic levels in your community at this point?
Published, no. Of my awareness, yes, I kind of know how many of our kids are scholarship kids, how many of our kids are habitat kids, how many of them are private school kids, and kind of where they fall on that social economic kind of bridge. And I work really hard to make sure that we're hitting both ends of the spectrum and not focusing on either one side or the other. Because I also want those kids on both sides of the spectrum to be in classrooms together to help each other see new perspectives.
Is there, is probably the numbers, probably the data set's probably too small, but is there a socioeconomic class that you're more effective at than others? Naturally, someone would think that private schools, homeschooling, there are people open to these sort of thought processes, but that may not be
So
true.
homeschoolers do grasp it faster because they're a little bit more used to solving their own problems and fixing their own schedules, whereas public school students and private school students are very much driven by what the teacher in the classroom says, and they spend more time in groups of their own peer ages, whereas homeschool students spend a lot more time with a lot of varying ages. But I think the biggest key indicator of success for us is whether or not the child and family are willing to ask questions. And it really doesn't matter what their social economic status is. If the parents aren't willing to ask questions or learn something new or say, I don't know, then the kids often shut down and aren't willing to try something hard or say, I don't know.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah. So I am very thankful that we are very effective across socioeconomic statuses, across different cultures. I mean, this is one of those things that at the end of the day, it doesn't have cultural bounds. It simply has, are you willing to sit down, ask the questions and do it or not?
Yeah, and I can imagine that the lack of willingness to ask questions could be a number of reasons, including fear, embarrassment, don't know what the next question is,
That
right?
was when I was a financial coach, that's what we told people all the time. There are three emotions that people feel when you talk about money: fear, shame, and cynicism. But that applies to anything that they're not comfortable with. Fear that they've done it so wrong they can't fix it. Shame that they're the only person who's ever done it wrong and we're all going to judge them for it. And cynicism that everything is built against them and they can't possibly do better. And if they're stuck in that fear, shame, or cynicism, that's a point where we have to sit down and first figure out the mindset to get them out of that before we can teach them the entrepreneurship.
Totally makes sense. Wow. Wonderful stuff.
It's so much fun. These kids are amazing.
Yeah.
Anybody who lives within an hour and a half drive of me and is like, I want to go to a children's business fair, they're free. Just drive down here and see the kids in action because they will blow you away every time.
So it's been a while, but a friend of mine was involved with the New York City school system, the public school system, and was a nonprofit, but ended up getting funded by partially by the city to have after school programs. They may or may not have been related to entrepreneurship or financial skill set, but there was a budget for that because rather than the kids going home and being latchkey kids, they were able to stay in the gym afterwards and learn something. Is that something that you've considered?
Right. So, our local school district, I've been trying for
It's
months to
hard.
get.
It's yeah.
Yes, it's very hard to get in. However, we do have a couple of local private schools or homeschool co-ops that are bringing us in either for after school programs next school year or summer camps this summer. Just exactly for that reason, to keep the kids safe and contained and learning something. And this is such a great program to tie into a summer camp because it's so fun for the kids. It doesn't feel like school.
Right.
And it's a lot
Very
easier to
creating. Yeah.
right. So it's a great summer camp program. So we will have 3 or 4 weeks at least of summer camp this summer that we'll be teaching. Oh yeah. And again, there's budget for that, and families pay prime dollars to know their kids are safe during the day when they're at work.
It's one of the biggest problems, right?
Right.
Yeah. Tell everybody before we wrap up where they can find you.
So our direct website is SOCEICT.org. So that's just SOCHICT.org. And then you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Society of Child Entrepreneurs. And then, of course, like I said, we have the Sochi Circle. And so that's school, SKOOL.com/Sochi Circle.
Yeah, we'll make sure we relay that when we publish this. But Leah,
So
that
many
was
places.
amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, they're so much fun. I tell people all the time, I could talk for hours about these kids and the things I've done. And then sometimes my daughter comes and does podcasts with me, and then she can talk for hours about the ideas that she's had and the programs that she's helped us develop. Because she's even looked at me. I've written a lesson plan, shown it to her, and said, "This is what we're going to teach today." And she said, "No, I have a different idea." And I had to rewrite lesson plan.
And she was probably right.
Right. The program, her idea actually ended up going really, really well. I was just a little thrown aback when I thought I was the teacher, and she was like, no, I
Yeah.
had another topic for today.
Always an opportunity to learn.
Absolutely. And she is a really good teacher.
Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. We'll make sure everybody gets it. We'll send you the link and so forth.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me today and
Thank
letting
you.
me talk about these kids all day.
You bet. My pleasure. Thanks everybody for joining us. Till next time. Thank you.